Co-working, serviced offices, what's the right word for it? But more importantly, what's going on with them? A lot of people predicted that serviced offices, co-working facilities through COVID pandemic will actually die away, but actually many are actually changing their strategies and building up. And who best to have that conversation with than Liquid Space CEO Mark Galbraith? So Mark is going to be with us. We're going to be reviewing co-working, what is the trends, what's going on in that marketplace, and we're going to have a great conversation about that. And then we're going to have in the office of the future. Is remote? Is it complementary? What is this? This is an article based on JLL's recent report, and we're going to be digging into that. So I'm very excited to be joined today by Mark Galbraith. Mark, welcome back to Open Source Workplace. I think it's been July since we last spoke. I did a video together. So how are you doing, sir? How was your summer?
Good morning, mate. Summer was good. It was a bit more local than past summers, although we did squeak out for a proper road trip at the end of August.
Nice.
Which actually was it was quite sweet. Driving more than 10 miles from the house was dramatic, and I think a gas for everybody. So doing well, thank you very much.
Good. Glad to hear it. And for anyone who's first time coming to the channel, thank you for joining us. I hope you find value. I hope we provide some insights and lessons and learnings for you. If you have questions for Mark or myself, please do drop them in the comments below. We will get back to you. Please do subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, and give us a thumbs up so that the YouTube algorithm goes, this is kind of interesting, and other people may like this. And if it's not, please do it anyway, because it just helps us. But a few links below. Whatever we talk about today, there is going to be links below in the description. Do go check out the content. There is also a link to a newsletter that you can sign up for, that you get to each weekday morning, where we provide you insights on productivity, employee engagement, various statistics, content from Open Source Workplace, and also the content that we're going to discuss on the live stream. We have also set up a Discord channel, so please check that out too. If the link doesn't work, because I've been told sometimes the link expires, let me know, and I can certainly send you an updated link. But it is a place where basically it's a community gamified, so it enhances the interaction amongst people on the platform. So do go check it out. So Mark, as we dig into this, what's going on in workplace, serviced offices, co-working space? What's been happening? I mean, it's everyone thought it was the doom and gloom, but is that really what's happening today?
Well, let me flick it back to you, Steve, with a quick question. You're the global. In addition to the sensei of Open Space Workplace, you're of course the global head of workplace for NASDAQ. With a pretty extensive footprint. Have you grown tired of the word unprecedented?
Absolutely, and I promise you, we will use it at least more than once during this chat. But I hear you.
I mean, I say it glibly because in addition to the legitimately unprecedented amount of change that is sweeping through workplace, and it is unprecedented, and we are going to use that word again and again. Of course, on top of that, we have an unprecedented hurricane season, and God save the people of the Gulf Coast right now that are enduring Hurricane Sally. We've got unprecedented wildfires that have burned.
That's crazy, man.
I think 3,000% of what the fire season did last year, and we're technically only starting the fire season. And rest in peace all the folks that have already been taken off the planet in the last several weeks in Oregon and Washington and California. So there is so much unprecedented change, and we won't touch the political third rail today. But of course that's huge as well. But yeah, like in workplace. I mean, the office industry is going through a tectonic, once in a generation change.
Yeah.
And I think despite the multiple attempts from various camps to spin the hard data and the learnings that have already been documented to suggest that the office isn't dead. Yeah, absolutely true. Mm-hmm. But that we're headed back to where we were before. I just don't buy it. The leaders that we're working with, both on the occupier side and the real estate side, I think they also know that it's not going back to where it was. And so what's happening right now? A staggering amount of strategy planning and execution planning
Mm-hmm.
for a world that's going to be um, very much altered forevermore, but but effectively in a positive way. I think we've just opened up Pandora's box on a somewhat renaissance world. You know, distributed workplace, work from anywhere. There are a multitude of positive attributes of that. We just got to get it sorted.
So the positive attributes. What do you see as the positive attributes of that?
Um, uh, Human as well as economic.
Mm-hmm.
Human as well as sustainability oriented. In fact, I'll use sustainability, not economic. And
Mm-hmm.
but let's go to that sustainability side first, right? And sustainability has two components: economic and environmental, right? So the implications of work from anywhere and the rebalancing and right sizing of what workplace is are definitively, for the typical company, going to result in a workplace, an effective portfolio that's smaller, that's more efficient, and that's more distributed than it was 6 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to take some time to evolve to that new steady state, but it'll be smaller and more efficient and more distributed. So from from a sustainability standpoint, environmentally, this is a step in a positive direction. It will include less commute time and vehicle miles traveled for employees who no longer will have to navigate as far. It'll include less underutilized or unutilized real estate sitting on the power grid, using up material. And then economic, and those are the environmental sort of pillars, the big ones. And then the economic ones, you know, real estate is the largest fixed cost for any company. People is the number one cost overall.
Mm-hmm.
But dude, survey after survey now of CEOs and workplace leaders, the consensus is in. The vast majority have already declared that they're going to be reducing their portfolios by 20% or more. Those are big numbers.
They
and
are.
so yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. My apologies.
yeah.
My apologies.
No.
So obviously, like you're in a very unique position where you sit, right? Liquid Space. It basically pulls together all these various co-working service offices, however we want to call them, from around the world. You're obviously interacting continuously with these providers. You're also then matching them with, clients on the other side who are buying these services. So you're in a very unique position to sort of see and give guidance on what that means to the industry. What sort of key takeaways are you learning from those conversations?
Um, First off, what's the state of the economy, right? So co-working spaces and serviced offices and landlords with their spec suites and private companies subletting space. Those are all the supply elements of the flexible office economy. Those are all the spaces and the providers that can be had on more flexible terms.
Lost. We have just lost Mark. So here we go. We're back. We're back.
I'm here.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yep. Good man.
So I was just saying, so the real economy, like the flow of dollars, the transaction volumes here today, right now, it's compressed from what it was in February, so just suck that in, take that in, acknowledge that, and it's compressed because many people are still working from home and they're not comfortable venturing out, and it's compressed because transaction managers and real estate leaders have taken a pause, they've taken a timeout, as they are doing the heavy lift of re-strategizing, planning, and preparing to execute a work from anywhere strategy. So that's one observation. Now, let's. It's not time to dance on the grave of the flexible office economy, because that contraction, that real compression right now, that is absolutely a pause and a moment in time. And the spring back and the early data on the scale and the scope of the spring back is the flexible office economy is going to be back and larger, and moreover, every indicator now is it's going to grow faster than its already sort of strong growth rate over the last 10 years. So, the big questions are, on a company by company basis and for the industry overall, when is it game on again, right? When are employees going to be comfortable venturing from home? Steve, when will you at NASDAQ be encouraging them and telling them that the waters are safe?
Yeah.
And then at the corporate procurement level, when will you be leaning back forward to begin to execute your work from anywhere strategy? When will you start you know, downsizing current spaces. When will you execute new leases? When will you deploy new hubs or new mobility programs? Those are the new sort of rhythms. Those transactions are now happening, but I think our best estimation is that sort of fulsome roar, that fulsome recovery, it's going to be happening in 2021.
Yeah, no, it's interesting actually. You say that you anticipate faster growth in time to come. Whenever you go back a few months ago, it was the complete opposite viewpoint, and I think as realization has to come into people, perceptions have changed in the sense of the work from anywhere. Well, how do we do that? People don't want to be in their homes, so to your point, okay, they got to get out of their homes. So actually, perhaps office or flexible space close to people's homes is maybe the way forward, and we've talked about that before on the channel. I think there's a real opportunity, and with that and with this growth, that's probably the reason why we're seeing a lot more of the bigger traditional real estate brokerage houses get involved in flexible space, right? CBRE already released HANA. JLL have done a partnership with Serendipity Labs in Europe, and then recently we've seen Cushman do a tie-in with Industrious, and you probably know more than over and above what I've just quoted, but in essence, sort of, is that the reason? Well, obviously, it's probably the reason why we see these companies get more and more involved in this flexible office space.
Absolutely a fact that over the last 2 to 3 years. Yeah. Let's have a pre-COVID conversation, and then what do we think is happening?
I knew you had a thought there because I saw you laughing. I was like, he's going to go somewhere else. He's debating with it internally. Do I go there? Do I not go there?
Well, it's 6:12 a.m. here in
I know, man. I know.
Who could possibly be listening? Let's go. Let's go there. So pre-COVID, absolutely a fact. The major service providers finally awoke to a segment of the office industry that, broadly speaking, they had given short shrift to for the prior 10 years. So, flexible office, co-working, serviced office, flexibility and choice, economic efficiency, speed, all of those tenets that are fundamental to why NASDAQ uses flexible office, why Salesforce.com uses flexible office, and why Liquid Space and Industrious and Convenient WeWork exist. All those tenets, they're somewhat antithetical to how the service provider world works. When I say fast and economical and agile, do you think broker? do you think 10-year lease? Do you think design build time cycles? No, you don't. Yeah. Now, I don't want to denigrate the brokerage world. They're a vital part of the supply chain, but they reflect an old world order. Now, absolutely the case. Avis and Young, JLL, CBRE, Cushman Wakefield, Colliers, various others. They've had reconciled the importance of the flexible office world, 1, 2, 3 years ago, and started making moves toward monetizing it. What's our play? How do we best make money off of this shift? Because it's getting large enough that we can't ignore it. The challenge that they faced, and the challenge that they still face to a degree, in my admittedly outsider perspective, is that the power structure inside of those big firms, it does still lie with, the account relationship owner. So it lies with the broker. And I think you can't ignore the fact that the economic incentive of that relationship manager, that contractor that carries a Colliers card or an AY card or a JLL card, and everything about his or her worldview, the tools that he or she has to wield, and their economic incentives is to try to steer you to do what you've done in the past. Let's go find a campus. Let's go spend 12 months touring, and I'll manage the data for you. Let's go spend the next 2 years after that, designing and building, and let's go sign a 10 or a 15-year contract where I'm going to get paid up front and the landlord will get paid over the course of the term. Yeah. That's how the industry is wired. And furthermore, the approach that, that old world model takes relies on controlling the process, managing the complexity, keeping it complex, because that's what they do. They decomplexify the stuff that you don't want to take on. So I think the early moves that we saw from the big broker service providers in terms of co-working offerings, a lot of it was actually around, how can we partner with the co-working space that might be leasing more space? Like the first round of broker excitement around WeWork was, I want to be the one that does the agency business for them, or I want to be the one that helps them secure their next sites, because they were, I mean, co-working, absorbed 50% of leasing last year.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Sorry, I
yeah,
didn't mean, I saw amazing statistics. Something like WeWork represented 8% of all leases in New York last year, or 12% the year before. Crazy numbers,
yeah, yeah,
you know.
absolutely. And so, I might be XYZ service provider, and I've just partnered with WeWork, but really what they're looking at is, I want to, I want the leasing. I
Right.
want to do that leasing. What we haven't seen effectively happen at scale from the service provider world is them become a sincere and effective promoter of the end proposition.
Mm.
I mean, I'll put you on the spot.
Yeah. Okay.
How many calls have you gotten in the last month from a top 5 service provider saying, "Hey, Steve, I want to help you figure out how to procure less space. Hey, Steve, let's see if we can't figure out how to enable your employees to buy space by the hour or by the day. Let's try to downsize your fixed portfolio." Has anybody actually volunteered that discussion?
Many people have tried, but my calls are very well screened. Let's just say
Yeah,
that, you know what I mean. But
yeah,
absolutely, 100%. You're so right. There is a real opportunity, and people are actually looking at that. But I do want to go back to something you said, because obviously there is this traditional roadmap of procuring real estate, right? Do you
yeah.
think this is the time it's ripe to disrupt that, in a sense of, right, there's the traditional process. You sign a long-term lease, you do those tours, you then engage in this long transaction lease, extraction with landlords, and then you then go through this process of building out space. Do you think there's an opportunity here to really disrupt that, in a sense of shorter term leases, landlords providing ready baked spaces for people to come, but then the contracts are that little bit tighter, a little tighter in the sense of little less structured or more structured, simplified, right? Do you think it's an opportunity for something like that to happen at the moment?
Um, Absolutely, and it is happening. Uh, we uh, we've been an advocate of that principle.
Mm-hmm.
Liquid Space has been championing that concept for more than half a decade, against the headwinds of a pretty formidable real estate establishment that didn't want to see contracts become standardized and simplified, didn't want to see contract terms or durations of tenancy get shorter, because those things ran headlong against their economic incentives.
Mm-hmm.
Nonetheless, even pre-COVID, a growing number of institutional owners, for example, had awoken, even though the brokers maybe didn't want them to. They had awoken to the size and the opportunity and the risk of not acting on flexible office. And so, now with COVID, it's kicking into high gear. So the reality is that today you can go online to marketplace platforms like Liquid Space. You can search and see in real time
Mm.
availability of inventory. You can connect as a consumer, whether you're a corporate real estate professional or a startup CEO or an individual. You can connect directly to property owners as well as co-working spaces and correspond to them with or without a broker. And you can today execute a contract online with an institutional landlord via a simplified and streamlined, fair and balanced and proven contract, and eliminate the weeks and the thousands of dollars of redlining and negotiation that serves no effective purpose. Right? So that actually is happening today. It's not a dangerous metaphor here, but it's not epidemic yet. It's
Right,
not.
right,
It's
right,
not.
right, right.
It's
Yeah.
not become the norm. But the moves are afoot right now. Owners are amassing around these principles. You are most definitely going to see online office commerce as the headline of this next generation that is
Mm.
starting right now. It is absolutely in play.
Mm. And that, no, and that's a nice segue into the sort of the first piece of content that we wanted to look at. And again, this is just teeing up, So WeWork just announced that they've given us all access to members for each month for a price of $300 per month, 2 week free trial. And again, it's more of not to sort of highlight the sort of WeWork thing that they're doing, but in essence to recognize that the industry's coming up with many different pricing models. As a reaction to, I know some companies are like allowing you to put in $1 and you draw down on those dollars, you pay as you go. There's enterprise-wide plans. I mean, obviously in response to COVID, is there other things, and which practice or which methodology would you think tenants should be looking at as a sort of a structure to go forward? Flexibility being the key thing that people go to co-working or service offices for.
Yeah. And so definitely want to share some thoughts around model, because there are options. But before I do, I'll double click on or double down on just the general phenomena that's happening. So yes, WeWork has just rolled out now their membership offering. Regus, of course, IWG has had something membership oriented for quite some time called Business World. Various other individual operators are scrambling to find ways to make their space more easily available on demand. And why is this happening and or accelerating? Well, because it's now evident to all market observers that work from anywhere is becoming mass scale. And the workplace is going to be a combination of some employees working from home all the time, some employees needing a place near home some of the time, and we should talk about some of the data on that front. And then some employees, of course, returning back to the headquarters. And membership offerings like WeWork has offered, or Regus offers, or others offer, are about creating more ways that you can tap into that flexible office in the middle. It used to be you'd go to Regus and you'd sign your 1-year agreement and you'd be locked into it. And now you can take it by the drink. So on model. The WeWork model is pretty typical, and it's quite similar to what most other operators have done, which is they're trying to get you to buy a bucket of credits. Right. So $300 a month at WeWork, you're buying a bucket of credits, and kind of like the 24-hour fitness card that you buy on January 10th as part of your New Year's resolutions, that this is going to be a new year. I'm going to get healthy. I'm going to use that. I'm going to go ahead and pay for those gym credits, because that I'll feel like an asshole if I don't actually use it, right?
Yeah.
So what's the risk in the gym card? Well, by July, you're back to drinking beer on the beach with your buddies, and you haven't been to the 24-hour fitness in months. And so the risk on that model of stepping up and buying a bucket of credits up front is waste. That's one sort of peril for the user. The other is hidden costs, right? And so those models where you're buying credits, whether it's at many of the operators, what you're probably getting access to is the open plan environments. Right. And if and when what you need is a private meeting room or a banquet room or some other sort of higher value space, you're going to then buy that or pay the upside to that. So that, but nonetheless, the underlying market need, customers want to have something less than full-time access to a bunch of spaces. Yeah, the principle of membership is serving that. So we're headed in the right direction. At Liquid Space, our view on what the right model is a little bit different. First off, we think that the right model begins with total choice, right? And so, the very reason for Liquid Space's existence is to aggregate all of those options. WeWork, Industrious, Convene, Notel, IWG, Novel Coworking, Serendipity Labs, right? Yeah. Because, no space operator can solve for all of the points of need that NASDAQ has for its 5,000 employees. No space brand can solve for all the points of need for any medium or large scale company. So scale and coverage is a critical requirement. And then as it relates to business model, our point of view is, membership by Liquid Space is a $35 monthly network access privilege, where then you unlock preferential rates at any property in any location for any space activity type.
Hmm.
So rather than trying to soak you for a bucket of credits that, listen, we know you're not going to use, rather than playing sort of the insurance game,
Yeah.
make you pay up front for something to make you sleep at night, but you end up not using it. Rather, what we want to do is unlock access to a massive network and provide preferential pricing, and then give ultimate mobility and choice to the user. Right. So Steve Todd at NASDAQ unlocks his employees, gives them access to a network, has oversight and visibility and
Hmm.
control on the spending,
Hmm.
but then entrusts his employees to be able to go and choose the best brand, choose the best space when and where they need it.
No, and I love that model. You and I spoke at length that, I think somebody needs to aggregate all this because the power of the serviced office is the whole organism, not an individual brand, and something that can cross those brands I think is really beneficial because, we select real estate, and the purpose of real estate is to allow people to do the work that they need to do at any given moment in time. And sometimes it is a meeting room, sometimes it is a co-working space, sometimes it's just grabbing a coffee, whatever it is, and sometimes it's just variety is what's needed. Now with that, traditionally, the big providers have been in large cities. If we think about New York, San Francisco, and so on and so forth, right? Those cities, obviously, a large part of the population has come out of those cities for the time being. Are you seeing a change in demand for serviced offices in more tertiary suburban areas than the traditional cities?
Yeah, we absolutely are. And just going back to the prior topic briefly, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, WeWork is a partner of ours. I think that they've got every opportunity in the world to roar back and be an extraordinary, and they are an
Yep.
extraordinary
Yep.
global brand, right?
Mm-hmm.
They can make it. I trust that they will. One of their challenges, though, is that their inventory reflects pre-COVID. Their inventory is massed and consolidated in the CBDs.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't make it irrelevant. It just means that they are out of line and out of the path of where we are already seeing strong signals of where demand is shifting to. So, one of the powers of a marketplace is it sees people searching and it absorbs the demand signals.
Right.
We're absolutely seeing the emergent strong patterns of people looking for space in realms that we can only conclude are near their homes. The outlying boroughs around Manhattan, the secondary suburban communities, around Atlanta and around Dallas, people are searching for space near home to augment home. There's in many cases they're seeking a private office full time near home.
Mm.
The Facebook engineer that booked one on Liquid Space several weeks ago, right? An individual office near home. They're seeking on demand space near home.
Mm-hmm.
In some cases to work by themselves. In other cases, we see them booking team spaces for a day or a week. And then there's a macro pattern that's starting to emerge around sort of wholly new cities that are seeing more search activity than they did in the past. Sun Belt. So we're starting to see the outline of a migration, of a dislocation of workers. My little mountain town here in Idaho, I live in Sun Valley, Idaho, Ketchum, Idaho. The school that my kids go to, that's only got 300 kids in it, turned away 240 families for the
Wow.
fall for this fall semester. Families moving from Seattle, San Francisco, LA,
Yeah.
New York, like wholesale.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that effect, that dislocation of where people choose to live, which is happening in concert with companies that are saying, "Hey, Steve, Facebook, you can now, where do you want to live?
Mm-hmm.
Where do you want to work?" And so
Right.
so there's this dance that's happening. Flexibility and choice is being given. We're starting to see the patterns of distribution and movement of employees. And we're already seeing those signals start to present themselves in our real-time marketplace.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating. Whenever you talked about the schools there, I actually saw an article yesterday that a lot of college kids are starting to use co-working space to actually
Oh,
go to
yeah.
school, which is really interesting, which is a real opportunity that no one foreseen as well. But
Yep.
I did want to follow up with one question with what you were saying. Are you able to see within your platform then, like if I'm Steve Todd lives here and he goes to and he selects offices within 2 miles, 3 miles, 4 miles from us, are you able to see that distance? And if so, what does that typically look like? Because obviously, organizations are evaluating today where they need to be, how far people are prepared to travel. What is the sensitivity to that? Are you able to see those insights?
Yeah, we absolutely are. So we're able to sense where people are originating their searches from with their
Yeah.
browser sort of locus. We absolutely know the locations of the venues that they're searching for. We know that the data that they put in, and so and we are working with companies, people in positions like yours, heads of workplace, that are undergoing workplace transformation studies right now, trying to decide how big should my portfolio be?
Right.
What tools do I need to provide, work from anywhere capabilities? We are working with them on geospatial planning of you know pre-curating the types of property and spaces based upon where their people live. So if like, what are the rhythms of planning for this new normal? Well, you got to look at where your people are. You
Mm-hmm.
need to be talking to them, like understand where they live, survey them, as most companies have, understand what their sentiments are. You then need to create a new map, a new view of the places that are needed to match those people and their
Right.
needs. So that mapping and that sort of illumination of a new on-demand workplace based upon where your people live, not where your headquarters are, is a part of the planning rhythm that's underway right now.
So what insights can you share here right now? I mean, in essence, is it people are selecting something that is within 1 mile, 2 mile, 3 mile, 4 mile from their homes? What is the larger percentage of people using your platform doing?
Well, we know that pre-COVID, the average commute distance in
Mm-hmm.
North America was 16 miles, each way, right? So the
Mm-hmm.
average American
Right.
did 32 miles of commuting every day, right? Which is a non-trivial, and a lot of that was driven in cars. We know and see the suburban markets that people are searching from, and in that data and in the conversations that we're having with workplace leaders, it's very evident that the sentiment of the employee is, much of the time, if home doesn't work, I want to work somewhere closer to home. Closer is better.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be in an environment that's less threatening. So, interesting new concepts like, drive up, park in the leafy green parking lot, walk across the parking lot to a ground floor access to a private secure space,
Mm-hmm.
versus drive
Mm.
16 miles to the parking garage in the CBD, wait in the queue to get up to the 30th floor of the glass tower, all the while kind of dealing with that sort of emotional and perceived threat of this invisible enemy. The contrast is stark. So, looping back to co-working brands and what's happening, while you've got some folks that pre-COVID, like WeWork and others, that like they just controlled the CBD.
Mm-hmm.
They sucked all the oxygen out of the room. You've also got some operators like Office Evolution, with its 100+ locations, fastest growing operator. Most of their locations are secondary and tertiary markets that are drive up. They're in 1 and 2 story buildings. Players like that are in a fortunate position to be better positioned for some of what the future of work's going to want.
Mm.
I think you're going to see a pretty rapid acceleration of sort of rebalancing of inventory. Operators are scrambling right now to find the right cities to get into.
Mm.
Um,
Wow. So much there, and I want to keep going, and we're way over time, and this is just flown by, and we didn't even get to the piece of content that we were both really looking forward to digging into, because we've got so many thoughts on that. But Mark, as always, look, I appreciate you getting up so early and giving us your time, sharing your thoughts, sharing your insights. Please do go check out Mark. Look at Liquid Space. I think it's a great product. I love it. I love what you're doing with that. And again, look, thank you for spending time with us. Again, if you watched all the way through, thank you for spending time with us. Do subscribe to the channel. Do click that like button, hit that notification bell so you're alerted to all upcoming videos. We are here Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. each morning, going live with different guests who are experts in their fields. So thank you for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day. Mark, thank you, man.
Great pleasure, mate. Stay safe.
Cheers. Thank you.